Hello, this is Mary, and I'm here to review Silent Hill 2 Remake. I will start this review by saying that I have never played any Silent Hill before, with the exception of that short game. Was it Silent Hill Memories? I'm not too sure what was the name, but I have the full playthrough. It's a short game that they released for the PS5. But when it comes to the original Silent Hills, I have never played any of them. I don't know much about the story of those games as well. I do know like the basic knew before playing Silent Hill 2 Remake the basic lore of Silent Hill, but knew nothing about the characters or the actual story. So I didn't play Silent Hill 2. This will not be a comparison review because I did not play the original one, and the remake was my first real experience with Silent Hill. When the game was announced, I wasn't really looking forward to this game because none of it really convinced me. I thought the graphics weren't really that stunning. James looked like a knockoff of Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil. And the monsters were for me the most disappointing part because when I saw them in early trailers, they looked very low resolution compared to the rest of the game. So the game wasn't as polished as it came out. But at the time, I felt like the monsters were in a really different graphic texture when compared to the rest of the town and the human characters. So, and there were some comments from the developers saying that they were trying to make it less. It was not less horror like, but less aggressive on the gore, I guess. And they wanted to tone it down a little bit, and I wasn't really that excited because of all this. Then the game comes out, the fans are still a little bit divided. Some really praised it, some were like, okay, this is fine, but not as good as the original. And I was curious, I wanted to see for myself because I had people telling me that it was better than I was expecting too. So a friend of mine, Andre Viana, lent me the game so I could try it for myself. So let's talk about the story. You have the main character, James Sunderland, and he goes to Silent Hill. I thought that Silent Hill wasn't really like a physical place from the what I had heard before, just these random ideas that I had before playing the game. I didn't feel like I thought that Silent Hill was a purgatory, which I was not very wrong, but I didn't think it was like a physical town. And James goes to Silent Hill because he has received a letter from Mary saying that she's there waiting for him. Now, James has a problem. He knows that his wife is dead. And according to him, she's been dead for 3 years. I think he said something like that. Now, why would someone in their, perfect mind receive a letter from a dead person and be like, I'm going to you. I'm gonna follow the direction on this letter. Not sure, but James does it. And he will explore Silent Hill, trying to find Mary, finding other characters that are there for their own reasons as well, discovering that Silent Hill is crawling with monsters, and basically revisiting his trauma and psychological issues, being faced with an alternative version of Maria. And at the end of the game, we find out what actually happened to James and Mary. So the story is pretty simple in its premise, but as you go exploring the town, discovering what the town is about, why you have this foggy, permanently hidden city that looks very abandoned because there are no people living there. The characters that you find that are other humans like you, they are also visiting there for their own reasons, so they do not live in this town. But apparently it was some place that was populated, right? Because the hospital that Mary was staying at was there, and it was a very real place with real people. I don't know. There are some things that I kind of question in terms of what is and what is not Silent Hill, because it seems like a physical place, but then sometimes it feels like it's an alternative dimension to become a purgatory and a place for reflection for these characters. But I digress. About the characters, so you have James Sunderland. Like I said, you know his motivation, why he's there. Even when beginning the game with James, I thought that he had weird traits about him, about how he dealt with some things. He's very indifferent to what happens around him. Like, he will question if the other characters are fine or if they need help, but he comes from a place of indifference. It's like he's asking this out of courtesy rather than actually caring. I mean, just the opening statement that he has, not about the letter, but when he first finds Angela, which is one of the other characters, and she tries to warn him that Silent Hill is weird and dangerous, he's like, he looks at her with the face of the person that is least interested in what she's saying, and he's like, I guess I don't really care if it's dangerous or not. And you know, this kind of depressed, he doesn't care. He doesn't care for his safety nor others. He will question about other characters' well-being, but like I said, I don't think it comes from a genuine interest or caring about these people. And since we mentioned Angela, then we have Angela. Angela is this very shy girl, and when the game came out, there were a lot of, I will not say fans, because I honestly doubt that these people played either the original or the remake for that matter, but there were a lot of, let's say, guys that decided that Angela was not sexy enough. And I swear, what is wrong with people? Because for Silent Hill doesn't really make like sexy human characters. At least this Silent Hill 2, I cannot speak for the other games. Sure, Maria has a very I wouldn't say sexy, but she looks, you know, very elegant. But Angela is the exact opposite of Maria. She's this very shy girl with a very troubled past. We find out along the game because James, either if he wants to or not, kind of discovers the past and the reason why these characters are also in Silent Hill. And Angela just suffered sexual abuse from her father and brother. Her mother did nothing about this, even though it's implied that she asked for her mother's help. And ultimately, she is of all the characters that are in Silent Hill, she's the one I feel is the most victim, because she did suffer a lot at the hands of her own family. And of course, she ended up killing her father and brother. And I'm not sure what happened to the mother, because that is not made very clear. But she burned down the house where they were. Either she burned it or the fire started for one reason or another, and that's why she perceives Silent Hill differently from James. James sees it as foggy, but Angela apparently sees Silent Hill only burning. And it's really interesting when James is able to step into the world of Angela. Angela will also give a key item to James, which is a knife, a very sharp knife. I hated that thing the moment she handed it to me, and I was like, why is James keeping this in his inventory instead of throwing it away? But it is what it is. If you look at the knife, because this game has some hidden choices to determine your ending. If you look at the knife, basically it's a symbolism of hurting yourself and having these suicidal thoughts. So beware if you don't want James to think a lot about that. Then we have Eddie. The moment I looked at Eddie, I thought that they were always trying to portray Eddie as this very awkward, gross character. Why do I say that? So, Eddie is more like on the chubby side, and whenever you see him, he is eating. Which, honestly, taking into consideration everything that is happening in Silent Hill, it's very weird that he's eating. He's either vomiting, eating, but just all around. And why do I say that eating makes him gross? Because the scene where you see him eating, he has this huge ice cream bucket and he's just eating that with his bare hands. No spoon, he's just like shoving that into his face. And honestly, I know that in the original game, he was eating a pizza. And I think the ice cream is just way more gross because of the way that he eats it. He's also, whenever you look at him, is always very sweaty, and at the same time he's always like, you see his breath when he talks. Later on I discovered that's because he sees Silent Hill as frozen. In the beginning I thought that it was a way of saying that he was always panting, that he had this like heavy breathing or something, and it was something to make him appear even more gross, but apparently it was not. And you find out that Eddie was bullied by a colleague. That colleague would be relentless about the bullying, and one day he found the dog of that said colleague, and the dog was barking at him, and he decided to kill it. Perfectly normal. And when then he came knocking, asking about what happened to the dog, he also killed that colleague. And Eddie is not in his right mind because he always thinks that people are mocking him or laughing at him, which is surely a trait of his trauma of being bullied. But then he also has a very aggressive way of going about it. And, because of this, he ends up facing against James. So he determines that James is against him and is mocking him silently, and I guess he sees James as an enemy, and he's the only human character that you actually fight. I will say that his fight was actually very difficult and challenging because, the monsters are overestimated when compared to Eddie. It doesn't make a lot of sense that I need to shoot him several times. His fight was interesting because of the location and the mechanics. Eddie is far faster than I would have predicted, and he's just relentless in his attacks. So I will say that I died a few times trying to defeat him. Of course, we have Mary. We don't see a lot about Mary, even if she is the plot device pushing James to explore Silent Hill in the hopes that he will find her. Of course, I've been mentioning a lot of spoilers, but this is where, because it's about the conclusion of the game, you discover that, yes, he was right, Mary was dead. It's not clear if she was the one who sent this letter, or maybe if it was all a plot from Silent Hill. This was the last letter that Mary wrote before dying. And Mary was in a very difficult health condition. The game never confirms what she was suffering from. You know that she started with coughing, so she had some kind of breathing illness. And then that affected her physical appearance because her hair started to fall out, her skin was covered in blisters and wounds. So her existence at the end stages of her illness were she was just in a lot of pain. And she confesses that she abused, I'm not sure physically, but probably most certainly verbally, of James. So she was finding her situation very unfair. and she lashed out at James. And she could see that even though she didn't want to do this, but at the same time, she was using him as a way to be an outlet for her anger. And she knew that he was growing tired of her. He was not able to take that abuse. And one of the times she spent most of the time at the hospital, and once when she was able to return home, she asked him to kill her, to end her misery. And this is where you find out that James killed his wife. And the reason why he feels guilty is because he did not do it because she asked to. He did it for his own satisfaction, because he was tired of caring for her, of dealing with that situation. And he did it for a selfish reason, and that's why he feels guilty, even though she asked for that merciful kill. So it's very interesting that none of the characters in here, the human characters, none of them are all that innocent. They are blamable for something, and they aren't, I wouldn't say bad people, but they aren't good people as well. They have very questionable decisions and actions in their past. And then you have Maria. Maria looks human, and she looks like the twin sister that decided to dye her hair and dress in a more provocative way just to fulfill all of James's fantasies. But Maria is, I guess, another monster, at least is of Silent Hill's making. And she's there, of course, to kind of stray James from the right path. But honestly, what is the right path? You have different endings. You have a total of 8 endings. I did 2 of them. I will say that about Maria, I don't have a lot to say about her. I just thought that she was a walking red flag. She will constantly compare herself to a dead woman, which is awful, honestly. But I mean, I cannot fault her. She's a monster in disguise, and her only objective is to convince James to take her out of Silent Hill. So even though I don't really like Maria, I understand that all she wants is freedom. But honestly, after seeing, because I didn't get Maria's ending, because I didn't want to interact with Maria, after seeing her ending, I think she's better off staying in Silent Hill than going with James, because James makes a very creepy comment when they're leaving together Silent Hill. And you just know that the cycle is gonna repeat itself. I got 2 endings, like I said. I got the leave ending, where you are able to leave Silent Hill. James comes to terms with what he did, and you are able to leave Silent Hill. With Laura, Laura is another character that is here. She's a kid. At the beginning, I was like, she's a little bit annoying in the sense that she's a kid that gets in James's way. Also, the way James interacts with her is also, I swear, he was always threatening her, and I'm like, dude, you cannot interact with a kid to save your life. But she's a little bit annoying because she is trying to get on the wrong side of James, and by the end of the game you understand that she really loved Mary because they were together in the hospital. Laura never explains why she was in the hospital, and she went to Silent Hill because she wanted to find Mary, because she didn't know that Mary was dead. And then she finds out that James killed Mary, because that's when James realizes what he has done. But Laura still lives with him if you are able to do the good ending. I don't know. Some people have speculated that the leave ending is him looking forward to the future, which I agree, and adopting Laura. And I'm like, James adopting Laura? That's very weird if you ask me. I cannot imagine the same guy that could not deal with the kid the entire game is a good choice for a father. But it is what it is. And I got the in water ending. Honestly, The in-water ending is when James returns to his car, fully aware of what he has done to Mary, and realizes that Mary is in the back seat, her body is in the back seat of the car, and he just reads her letter one last time and throws himself into the lake, river, whatever is near Silent Hill, and drowns himself. I feel like the in-water ending, I know that that's not really a good ending, but I think it makes more sense than the leave ending. Like I said, I have a lot of things about the leave ending that for me don't make sense. The in water, I think, is more in line because even though in the letter Mary pleads to James to move on with his life and learn to be happy, I don't think that James really deserves it. And I think the in water is him realizing what he has done and accepting the consequences of that. So I like in water more than leave. Then, of course, you have the meme endings, which is the aliens ending and the dog ending. They kept those from the original. And in the aliens ending, you are actually faced with the original model of the Silent Hill 2 game. So please check that out because it's so funny. I love that one. You also have the ritual one, which honestly it's so creepy. I think it's the ending where James is really crazy and delusional. And I know there's like two original endings that they created for the remake. One is like an extended version of the In Water, which I really liked a lot because you see Mary talking directly to James and caressing his face. It's really touching and emotional. I really loved it. And I honestly don't remember the other endings, but those are the ones that stuck with me the most. As for the gameplay, I will say that the gameplay is awesome. Exploring the city, hearing the monsters making static on your radio, knowing that they are nearby. The designs of the monsters as well, I really enjoy them. The way that they are made. Legs, as I baptized the monster, but it's actually named Mannequin, were so annoying. They hide under desks and tables, they hide in corners, and they always slap me in the face with their legs. I swear, it was so annoying, but the monster works really well. You have the nurses, you have a few different designs for the nurses because I saw that the way they appeared and their face slash head was a little different in certain moments. Really interesting as well. I really love the design, and the monster that really stuck out for me was Abstract Daddy. So when exploring Angela's trauma, you are faced against her father, and the monster is absolutely horrendous. I just wanted to get the hell away from it because it was absolutely terrible. It was really interesting what they did with his fight though, because the symbolism of the monster is on point. It's so grotesque in the way they designed it, and of course the way that you went about the fight where you had to run away from it, see and destroy the televisions that told you about Angela's past and what happened to her. Everything is so well done. It was just really interesting, and the boss fight is really challenging, and you just want to keep your distance from that. Also, James is very aggressive in its gameplay, especially when it comes to using the melee weapons, because he's just very aggressive in his movements and the way he screams about it. The voice acting in this game is absolutely amazing. Voice acting, and of course, they also motion captured the actors. Everything is so good. I did hear to a few examples of the original voice acting, and I do get why people really like the original. And I will agree that in some instances, the original has better delivery lines in certain sentences, and the remake has others. I think the emphasis of each game is like a different interpretation. For example, I listened to the whole reading of Mary's letter in the original, and I really liked it. And I cannot decide which one I like the most, if the original version or the remake one, because I think they are so well done both in different occasions. Because it will be like I could pick maybe sentences where I feel like the interpretation was best, but then there are other sentences where the other one is lacking. It's really interesting because it's different interpretations, and I think they both stand out on their own. The puzzles are challenging yet accessible. Some of them will make you, lose a little bit more time thinking about the riddle that you're being faced with. But it's so interesting that some of those puzzles have different ways to solve them. I remember there was like this chest with medallions, and you could put the medallions in different orders, and the answer would be right either way because it's your interpretation, and that would affect the end that you get. You also have the puzzle with the apple where you can choose between putting the beautiful shiny apple or the rotten half-eaten one, and that will also affect the ending because it's like you are always with those decisions. I guess you're choosing either Mary or Maria. It tells you about the decisions that you are making not in your conscious mind. And do beware that not being mindful of James's health, not taking care of yourself. Usually when I went into the game, I was like, this is a survival horror. It's not. You shouldn't be saving resources in terms of healing items because that will affect how James sees them himself. Because if you're not taking care of James's health, that's because you are basically sending the message that James does not care about his own well-being, and then that will make you go towards a certain ending. It's very easy. I did it in one playthrough. I got the two endings. It's pretty easy. I just used the last save point to be able to just look a few more times at the knife, let me be a little more time injured, and I was really easily able to get the two endings. The other endings kind of demand that you play the game at least a second time, New Game Plus, because for the other endings you need to get certain items. For the ritual, the dog, the aliens one, you need certain items to be able to reach those endings. So a New Game Plus run is needed. I didn't feel like doing a New Game Plus, so yeah. It was a nice touch that they decided to have those little Easter egg moments for the original fans. For me, I was like, I would go for the glimpses of the past, and to me they didn't mean anything because I didn't play the original game. But it's interesting, and it's a nice touch for the older fans, the fans of the original one. And yeah, I think the game is an overall awesome experience. It's very tense, suspenseful, horror-like. You will get jump scares with the monsters, with the stuff that is happening. Beware for people that are sensitive to certain topics. This is the kind of game that is heavily focused on darker themes such as suicide, murder, self-harm, depression. It has a lot of heavy themes. And I think all around the story is so well thought out, the characters are so interesting, the designs, everything is so well done, and I really recommend it. I didn't mention the soundtrack, but the soundtrack is absolutely amazing. I don't have grounds to compare it to the original soundtrack, but the soundtrack is very adequate, it's really beautiful. I've gone back to listen to a few of the tracks, and it's this mixture of classical style to really emphasize the darker moments, the more emotional moments, and then sometimes you have like this rock versions of certain themes, and it also really fits the ambiance. And I think Silent Hill 2 is just an all-around amazing game. I think it deserves... for me, I know a remake, I'm always of an opinion that a remake shouldn't be Game of the Year, but Silent Hill 2 Remake does deserve all the praise. I was really sad that the actor that did James didn't get the award for best performance, because he does James unbelievably well. The reasons why I like and both hate James is due to the amazing performance, and it's an all around, every single character is so well done, but for me James takes the prize. He is the heart and soul of Silent Hill 2. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this review. There are a lot of things to explore. The focus on details in this game is amazing, and yeah, we cannot get over the fact that James will just stick his hand inside the most horrendous holes too, because he decides that there's an important item in there, be it inside a toilet or at the end of a hole in a wall. So yeah, and also really love the moment. It's so interesting when he realizes what he is, and basically he becomes the monster of Silent Hill, and the monsters are cowering away from him. There's just so many moments that I could talk about that are such nice and amazing details that really bring out this whole experience. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this review. For all my live playing, feel free to check out my Twitch channel. And if you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are not already following. And I hope to see you in the next video. May music always be your life force.